In this lecture, we will write the code to lay out the enemies in our game. The first thing we will do is create a function named addEnemy that takes in one parameter named enemy. The purpose of this function is to add an enemy to our enemies list when it is spawned so that we can keep track of it. Inside of this function, we will use the global keyword and then reference our global enemies variable. Then we will use the append function to add the enemy to our enemies list. Next, we're going to need to create two variables. The first will be named posX, and we will set it equal to -100. The second will be posY, and it will be assigned a value of 100. Then we will have a for loop for I in range 4. This for loop is going to spawn the 4 green boss Galagas at the top of the screen. First, we will create a variable named badGuy and set it to a new turtle. Next, we will use the up function to lift the badGuy turtle up off of the canvas. After that, we will call the goTo function and pass in posX as the first argument and posY as the second argument. Then we will use the shape function and set the shape to badGuy1. Next, we will call the addEnemy function and pass in badGuy. Finally, we will use the += operator to add 50 to the posX variable. Next, we are going to spawn the first of 2 rows of butterflies. First, we will set posX to -200 and posY to 50. Next, we will use a for loop for I in range 8. We will have a variable named badGuyRed that we will set equal to a new turtle. Then we will use the up function to lift the turtle up off of the screen. Next, we will use the goTo function and pass in posX as the first argument and posY as the second argument. After that, we will set the shape to badGuyRed. Then we will call the addEnemy function and pass in badGuyRed. Finally, we will use the += operator and add 50 to posX. After that, we are going to set up the second row of butterfly enemies. Again, we will set the X and Y position. Let's give posX a value of -200 and posY a value of 20. Then we will have a for loop for I in range 8. Inside of the for loop, we will set badGuyRed to a new turtle. Then we will use the up function to lift the badGuyRed turtle up off of the screen. After that, we will move it to posX, posY using the goTo function. Next, we will change its shape to badGuyRed. Then we will call our addEnemy function and pass in the badGuyRed turtle. Finally, we will increment the value of posX by 50. Up next, we will lay out the first row of bees. We will set posX to -250 and posY to -10. Then will come a for loop for I in range 10. Inside of the for loop, we will set badGuyBlue to a new turtle. Then we will call the up function to lift it up off of the screen. We will move it to posX, posY using the goTo function. Next, we will set its shape to badGuyBlue. After that, we will call our addEnemy function and pass in our badGuyBlue turtle. Finally, we will increment the value of posX by a value of 50 using the += operator. Time to lay out the last row of bees. Our X position will be -250 and our Y position will be -40. Then we will have a for loop for I in range 10. Inside of the for loop, we will set badGuyBlue to a new turtle. Then we will lift it off of the screen using the up function. Next, we will move it to posX, posY using goTo. After that, we will set the shape to badGuyBlue. Then we will use our addEnemy function to add our badGuyBlue turtle to the enemies list. Finally, we will increment posX by a value of 50 using the += operator. To see the result of the code we wrote in this section of the course, let's hit play in PyCharm to run our code. As you can see, each row of enemies is laid out according to the code that we wrote. In the next lecture, we will program the logic to allow the player ship to shoot in our game.